In the world of wrestling, strength isn't just measured by muscle, but by endurance, agility, and the will to power through. Picture the titans of the ring, dashing with ferocity, their every step shaking the ground beneath them. They're not just athletes, they're warriors in a modern-day coliseum, engaging in an eternal dance of tactics and sheer might. Running the ropes isn't just about speed, it's a game of strategy, a test of fortitude. Picture the electricity that fills the air as they bounce back, ready to make their move. It's a dance, a performance, a battle. In wrestling, every moment counts. Every step, every bounce, every breath is part of something bigger. It's not just a sport, it's a spectacle. It's a world where heroes are made, where legends are born. This is the world of wrestling. This is Running the Ropes. What's going on, everybody? It is another fantastic Tuesday evening. And first off, I'd like to apologize for last week and not being on the show. Being sick sometimes is at a disadvantage. I just did not have the energy to give the show what it deserves. So apologies for that. But we are back this week, and we're going to go hard as always. Let's get some housekeeping out of the way. Of course, this is a Downtime in the Ring presentation. So go make sure that you follow their YouTube at Downtime in the Ring. And plus all their other socials, just look for Downtime in the Ring in any of the search bars. It will come up. We're talking Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. It is everywhere. So go check them out. Of course, we are also partnered with 2.5 Heels. Follow their YouTube at Uncle Black 215 at YouTube. Plus, they're on X and Instagram and Facebook. And you can find all of us, of course, at WSN. That is the Wrestling Society Network. And you can find us on Facebook. You can also go to this awesome website, www.thewrestlingsociety.com, create a profile, come chat with fellow wrestling fans, enthusiasts, podcasters, creators, fans, everybody. We all hang out there. It's a great time. So go check us out. But I never like to do Running the Ropes on my own. Why? Because there's so many perspectives to share. And this week, I have the one, the only Dr. Heywood from PCW. How are you, sir?
I am doing well. Great to be here on Running the Ropes. So excited. You get to be my very first podcast. So this is a great honor for you.
Oh, I am. I'm absolutely honored. You know what? I guess here at Running the Ropes, we are known for being the first. We had WSN Brady Owens, the CEO of that show there. That was his first interview ever. So, and man, I am glad that you are here. I am excited.
Oh, I'm in great company. Yeah, very excited to be here.
All right. Well, as I always like to start the shows, there are people behind the passion of wrestling. It's just not characters that you see on a screen or at an event. Something drives a person to want to be part of wrestling. So, my first question for all my guests is, what got you to fall in love with wrestling?
Oh, well, I'm a little aged, so I'm gonna be showing my age here, but my older brother and I, when I was very young, we were watching MTV, and all of a sudden, the War to Settle the Score comes on, and in comes Rowdy Roddy Piper, just all of the I'm here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum attitude. And then Hulk Hogan, just this towering monster who I remembered from Rocky 3, seeing that in the drive-in, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's Thunder Lips. But no, now he's Hulk Hogan, and just the chaos and the theatricality, the violence, and I was already a big superhero fan, so it was like real life superheroes, and I fell in love. So I got to grow up during the age of Hulkamania at its heyday. My brother and I, we would rush to the video store to rent whichever WrestleMania had just come out, up until we were able to get the pay-per-view for WrestleMania 3. So we got to watch that live. And then I fell out around the new generation. The gimmicks started getting pretty hokey. Hulk Hogan was gone. Roddy Piper was gone. So the guys I was really invested in were gone, and I took a step back for a while. It was less popular with my peer group as well. I was kind of the last person watching wrestling. And then a few years later, I came home and I was flipping through the dial, and I happened upon Monday Nitro, and they were replaying Hogan's heel turn, and Hulk Hogan, he betrayed. What is this? And I was hooked. I was back in, and so gotta enjoy the Monday Night Wars as an adult. So I could really appreciate Stone Cold Steve Austin and his rebellion against Vince McMahon. As I was a pleb working at Walmart, and I hated my boss just like everyone else. So we were working the night shift. We would come in and we would talk about, oh, just see what Austin did to McMahon. It was so great. I wish I could do that to Greg, the assistant manager. That's how us wrestling fans are. And that passion builds and it grows in you. By the time the Ruthless Aggression era came around, I was able to actually spend my own money and go to these shows, and got to see Shawn Michaels super kick Hulk Hogan in the face at Arco, and found out where the wrestlers would go eat afterwards. They would all go to a local Applebee's. So I got to meet Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero and Matt Hardy. I saw Rey Mysterio's SmackDown Dark match before he came back, and he came back to the Applebee's. And I tell you what, I've never seen anyone get ribbed like Rey Mysterio by these guys. Hey, they don't let kids under 21 in here after dark. So it was great to kind of be on the outskirts of the world a little bit, and look in as a fan. And then I became made aware of PCW through a class I was taking. I went back to school later in life, and was like, oh, this would be fun to get involved with. But then I got married. Shawn Michaels retired, and I didn't want to watch wrestling anymore. My ex-wife, she didn't like wrestling, so it was kind of off the table. And then I got divorced, and part of the healing process for me was watching wrestling again. Undertaker went into retirement, and I was like, oh, I got to at least watch that. And I got caught up in AJ Styles, but it left me feeling a little bit cold. It didn't have the same magic it did when I was a kid. But caught back up with PCW, went as a fan because they're the independent local promotion. So let's see what these guys are doing. And then I took my kids to a couple of those shows, and then I was like, I need to take my kids to like a big WWE show. And so I spent some money and got in the second row for Hell in the Cell 2019. Probably the most infamous pay-per-view in WWE history. And while I enjoyed a couple matches, the ending left me with the rest of the crowd saying, "We want our money back." Like the Golden One Center, they were all chanting, "We want our money back." And I thought, you know what? I can go to my independent promotion, spend $100, take both of this, get that, meet any one of the wrestlers I want to meet. If I hang around backstage, that's what I want to be involved with. Because by the time I went to Hell in a Cell, we're in the second row, but we've got the cameraman in front of us the whole time because he's in that corner position.
Yeah.
And I didn't know where the wrestlers went to eat anymore, so we're not going to meet any of them. And it ended up being a big letdown for me. My kids, of course, had a great time, but I was like, I would rather give the people in my area a better experience for less money than what I paid thousands of dollars for. And I mean, there is definitely something to be said about the spectacle of WWE, but there is also something about the intimacy of pro wrestling in a smaller venue. A
Right.
lot of that stuff during the 70s and 80s was in these smaller, intimate venues. Ric Flair was not above working in a studio with 150 fans, and he put it all out there.
Yeah. Yeah, and in fact, that was going to be one of my questions is, have you been to many of the so-called big league shows, and which one do you prefer, the smaller intimate venues or the large-scale productions? And so you answered that very well there. So
well, now again, I do want to clarify there is something for the star power that you get with WWE, because my first wrestling match was at the Cow Palace, and it was in, I want to say, 88 or 89, and it was Hogan versus Macho Man in the main event. And I mean, as amazing as our small intimate venue is, there's nothing that matches the electricity when a place like that pops off for Hulk Hogan dropping his leg on Randy Savage, or at Arco when Stone Cold comes out in a monster truck while The Rock's doing his Sacramento Sucks song. I was there for that one. Never laughed so hard and never cheered harder for Steve Austin when he came out. It was like, I'm for The Rock because he's booing the Sacramento people, but now here comes Austin. So there is that. That you can't match in those intimate settings with 4,000 or 5,000 people, but again, does WWE have that star power? Does AEW have that star power that they had back in those days? And is it just me showing my age because I'm not with the cool hip crowd, and so I'm not all about Roman Reigns, or I'm not all about CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, like the incredible athletes. But I watch them and I don't have the same connection or feeling that I did with these guys that I grew up with.
Yeah. Oh, and that's understandable. Some of and I still, I think some of my favorite events to go to are house shows. They're not recorded. There's no cameras there. The big name wrestlers are still there, but they're allowed to have fun and interact a little bit more on a different level. So I love that. But again, there's just something special about an indie promotion that throws a show. And I think the main thing for me is that a lot of times at the indie shows, those wrestlers and those technicians, those refs, those commentators, those production people, that's not their main job. They have regular 9 to 5s, and this is something that they do for the sheer passion of the sport. And to me, that beats out any major production that you could do as far as AEW or WWE or whichever. To me, that makes it to me more special. So
Yeah, you're absolutely right. All of the guys in our promotion, they have their 9 to 5 job. I'm actually the exception. I have another source of income that's completely passive. So I can devote my time to the production of PCW, and that's one of the reasons it's a step above, because I can put in, the 20 hours a week to edit the show to the level where it's like, wow, this is actually one of the best produced independent wrestling companies out there. At Even at this level, it's impressive. At Ring of Honor levels,
mhm.
it's impressive. The kind of production that we put into it on a shoestring budget.
Right. Yeah. So you mentioned a couple of wrestlers, a few times here. Uh, who was your favorite to, I guess, to watch? Like anytime that they were on, you had to stop what you were doing and watch them.
Uh, Unequivocally, Roddy Piper. When I was a kid, I got caught up in Hulkamania. But after his feud with Andre, nothing was as good as his stuff with Piper. And so I would get the Piper tapes, and I would watch him, and then I started seeing some of his older stuff. And man, Roddy Piper could hold the crowd in the palm of his hand like no one else. I read his biography, and some of the stuff he did that's not on camera, I wish was on camera. Um, but yeah, Piper is. In fact, when I was a kid, uh, my brother was tall, and I was short for my age. I had a late growth spurt, and so whenever we would play, he got to be Hulk Hogan, and I had to be Roddy Piper. And my sister had a boyfriend who started calling me Roddy Piper, because he thought I acted like Roddy Piper, because I might have been a little shit, but yeah, Roddy Piper, and then after that is Diamond Dallas Page.
Mm.
I met him on several occasions. Such a good human being, and even before I met him, I was a great fan. The People's Champ era. In fact, one of my previous lives, I worked with young people, and would do some video work, some skits and stuff for them. And we did one called Diamond Cutter, about this cop who would do the diamond cutter anytime he got mad at someone. Completely ridiculous. So DDP, I mean, that diamond cutter out of nowhere was so exciting, and just how over he was with the crowd.
Yeah.
I love watching his matches, and whenever something pops up on Facebook, I'm like, gotta watch Dallas.
Dally is so genuine, and
Absolutely.
and it just exudes from him, and just a general conversation, and he always has a smile on his face. He's always looking to connect with people, and wrestling audiences gravitated to that, and
Yep.
it was so amazing to see. And he started off later in life as a wrestler, and such a success story. And he's still going strong with his yoga,
Yep.
and his attitude, and how he just reaches out and helps people. So yeah, absolutely, definitely one of my favorites as well.
Yeah, I'm a practitioner of that DDP yoga. I do it every day. Been on the power cuffs that he just came out with. Those things work, man. You want to put on some muscle, you get yourself some power cuffs, and you're doing really low weights.
Mhm.
You get blown up just with 5 pound curls. It's pretty crazy. And I've been on the DDPY retreat where you get to like spend 4 days with Dallas and his wife and a bunch of other people uh, down in Mexico. And you talk about how he always has a smile on his face. I actually, I got the most unimpressed look from him ever when I tried to tell him one of my wrestling stories. I got done with it, and he was just like, it's just what happened. He's like, "You're an idiot. Come back next time with something better."
All right, let's see. Next wrestling fan question I have for you. Most wrestling watchers normally like singles, or they're really like tag tag teams, whether it's 2, 3, whichever, but multiple person tag matches. Which camp do you think that you find yourself into? Are you a singles guy or a tag guy?
That's a hard question. That's like are you a Beatles guy or an Elvis guy? Um,
Beatles.
yeah. I actually I'm a Beatles guy too, but there was a time where I was an Elvis man. And if you see me do karaoke, I have a better time with Elvis than the Beatles. Um, I gotta say, singles, just because tag team wrestling is so hard to pull off and pull off well. I mean, when you have guys like the Rockers and the Hart Foundation, the British Bulldogs, the Brainbusters, those are some of the great tag teams where everything was high octane, lot of quick tags.
Mhm.
Uh, but it's hard to think of great tag team eras uh, in the modern age that don't have ladders, tables, and chairs involved. I mean, we can talk about Edge and Christian, we can talk about the Hardys, we can talk about the Dudley Boys, but their best matches were taking it to the extreme. You'll
Right.
forgive the pun. Uh, so I gotta say singles. I mean, when tag is done, oh, it's so good. Uh, but yeah, singles is something I generally prefer.
Somebody posted today, and I believe I saw it. It's um in one of the wrestling groups, because as a wrestling podcaster and part of a wrestling network, you get subscribed to a lot of different wrestling groups, and someone in there is uh, greatest tag team, uh, yeah, but not saying it had to be like triple tag team. And the first comment basically shut it down, and that was Von Erichs versus Freebirds. How you can't beat that?
Yeah,
Just straight up wrestling, no gimmicks. Yeah, and it was fantastic. I was fortunate enough to get to see them, and yeah, I there was that basically the whole that whole thread was shut down after that, and yeah,
yeah,
how can you compare? Yeah, and it's a different era now. Anytime that someone, a tag team steps outside the ring, and they're standing around ringside, grab the tables. That's what the crowd chants, and like, get back in the ring and wrestle, jabronis. We don't need tables every tag match. It's just
yeah.
it's overdone.
It, and that's one of the things that is missing in a lot of modern wrestling is things are just done to be done.
Hmm.
They aren't done for a reason. They aren't thinking about the story. They aren't thinking about what's going on with the fans outside, what they're seeing. Uh, it's just, oh, here, come up on the rope. and I'm going to help you around, and then I'll do a flippy do off the thing. Uh, I can't stand watching wrestling where it looks like that guy is helping that guy.
Yeah.
He's absolutely helping him. Why doesn't he just pull him off? There's
Yeah.
something to be said for suspension of disbelief, but that's a little too much for me. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. That's and I have a question for that here in a second. When you, to me, wrestling needs to tell a story, and whether it's done through promo work or actual wrestling, that story has to be told. And if you're not going to combine it with out of ring work, then your wrestling needs to be on point. But you've mentioned a few different eras of wrestling. Do you have a favorite?
Gosh, I gotta say, and this has become it's almost a cliche answer in today's day and age, but maybe for different reasons. The ruthless aggression era, because it had that melding of the Attitude Era and the Golden Age, where you had Hogan and The Rock. You had these guys like Shawn Michael having his second renaissance, but you also had John Cena coming up, Kurt Angle, uh, Eddie Guerrero, and Chris Benoit. Uh, so many greats, and everybody was over back then. It was such an exciting time to watch. Uh, by that time, I'd been, smartened up to the business to where I could watch a show and predict pretty accurately who's going to take the three. Um, but it was for me. It was still entertaining. It was like
Mhm.
the only one I called wrong was Booker T and Triple H at WrestleMania, but everyone called that one wrong. And maybe that's why they did it. Maybe that's why they did it. But yeah, what an exciting time that was to be a pro wrestling fan.
Absolutely. And I think I think we're getting there again. We had, after ruthless aggression, there was a lull. People, I mean, even WWE was having, without competition, was having trouble selling out stadiums or venues of any size. Um, they switched formats back to the PG format, and there was just other, no one wanted to go and see the product. And then AEW came back on the scene, and that got people talking. Oh, is this going to be competition? That started the conversation going, and then people started getting back into it. And now the storylines in the wrestling are starting to meld together for WWE. And if you just want to watch a great match, just go check out AEW. They throw wrestling matches like nobody's business. Yeah, who cares if it's not really telling an overarching story that lasts for weeks and weeks? But you want to watch a good wrestling match, go watch some AEW stuff. They normally throw a really good match. So, is there one? I know that you said that you kind of prefer for it to tell a story, but that's your bread and butter, is the long story form of wrestling, or is it just self-contained wrestling?
Uh, Long form story, definitely. I mean that's what we're doing at PCW. That's my job as the commentator. Is like here's this guy, here's this guy. This is why they hate each other, and this is why I hate that guy. Uh, and I personally, I have an issue watching just a straight wrestling match without commentary, unless I'm there live. If you put one of the unreleased WWE matches where they just film the dark match and there's no commentary on it, I start doing the commentary myself because it's like I need the story. So let
Mhm.
me make up the story that's going on here. And you can definitely tell a story just there in the ring without commentary, but that's my personal preference.
Mhm.
At the same time, I don't want to see a crappy match that has a good, couple backstage segments bookending it. I want to see two guys at the top of their game go out there, beat the hell out of each other, entertain the crowd, make me yell at someone, make me cheer for someone. That's what I want to see.
So we got a comment here for you. Doc is the man. I
Oh,
agree.
that is the adult dudes. They are the PCW Tag Team Champions. They are also the best rappers you've never heard of. You can find them on iTunes and Spotify. RC and Don opened up for Tech Nine, Warren G. Those guys, incredible.
Oh, awesome. All right. Well, we're going to get into some PCW stuff here in just a second. And we kind of talked about this off air a little bit about the current product that's on TV. So just explain again. So do you watch it, or I've had people that are like, oh, we watch it every time it's on TV, or how do you keep up with what's going on in wrestling as far as what's on TV?
The main thing is clips on social media, what's trending. Um, someone in our promotion shares something to me. Hey Doc, you gotta check this out. I'll check it out if one of the guys who's been through our promotion makes his big debut in WWE. Uh, I keep abreast of that, but mainly I'm pretty focused on our product. Uh, you know, uh, Putting 10, 20 hours into editing wrestling videos and watching the same match over and over. I get done and I'll read a comic book or watch the news or slap my kid around or something.
Right. So I think I know the answer to this. You brought up superheroes a couple of times as well. Your favorite superhero? And I'm
It's
guessing
got to be
because
Spider-Man. Got to be Spider-Man. From day one, I was a Spidey fan. The jewel in my collection is a 3.5 graded copy of the Amazing Spider-Man #5 from the early 1960s. Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. The first time Spider-Man met my uh, he's not really a villain from his perspective, but my favorite Marvel character though is Doctor Doom, and so that's the crown. It's like two of my favorite characters. They're meeting. I love it.
that's awesome. Yeah, it's I loved how the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and you had Macho Man in there.
Yes.
If you can survive 5 minutes in the ring with Bonesaw, you get all this money, and he wants to buy a car. And Macho Man was just absolutely amazing in that. I loved the crossover between wrestling and pop culture movies. Absolutely amazing.
Well, here's the great thing is that's straight from the comic. That scene is straight from the comic. Peter Parker's walking. And this is back in the day where they used to do stuff like this, where you would, if you were a rube, you would try and go in the ring and survive, 5 minutes with their big guy, and he'd shoot on you and tear you up, and you get tore up, and they have a great show for the fans, and some fans got a broken leg in the hospital, but that was before everything was so litigious. But yeah, I love that. the irony is the character's name in the comic was Crusher Hogan, and of
Uh,
course the bitter animosity between the frenemies, Macho Man and Hulk Hogan. So it's funny that yeah, I'm not gonna be called Crusher Hogan. No way, brother. Call me Bonesaw. Bonesaw is ready.
That's awesome. All right. So if you are just now joining us, one, where have you been? Two, this is Running the Ropes. We are presented by Downtime in the Ring and WSN, and we are talking with Dr. Hollywood of PCW.
Oh, Dr. Heywood,
Oh, sorry.
we don't want to get sued by Michael J. Fox on this one.
Right. Dr. Heywood, we were talking about Hogan, and the Hollywood stuck in my head. So Dr. Heywood, yes, absolutely. So tell us about PCW.
Yeah, PCW, this is our 25th year in existence. We started in 1999 as the senior class project of our promoter, Zach Primetime Reeb. And it went over really well. He was trained by Schizo, Anthony Antonucci. Zach Reeb did some time in Japan and across Europe. He's, I would say, he's probably the best wrestler you've never heard of. And he started the work farm, started training guys here in NorCal. Brian Cage came through out of our area, and Zach had a lot to do with his early days and training him. So we've been around for, in fact, we're maybe the third or fourth longest running promotion under the same promoter. That's how long we've been around. We are like a NorCal staple.
Mm-hmm.
We operate mainly out of Oroville, California, Yuba City, Red Bluff, do some in Chico, although we're trying to break into Chico a little bit more. You can find us on pcwnorcal.com. That's our website. You check it out back there. I built it. I'm that amazing. And then also we have our show on YouTube, mostly weekly, not all the time. We're on a little bit of a hiatus right now. But every Saturday at noon, we're on youtube.com/PCW Pro Wrestling. PCW Limelight is the show. Of course, I am the diamond standard of commentary on there. I am the executive producer of the show, which means I'm largely responsible for the look, for the editing, for the layout of the show, kind of how it's presented on YouTube. And, you know, like I said earlier, it was very important for me to have pro wrestling in Northern California. And that's why I wanted to get involved. And I saw the work that the PCW guys do. They made an instant fan out of me the first show I went to in 2002. I was taking a camcorder production class, and one of the guys who was running their YouTube production at the time, Cannibal Drake Nelson, was in the class with me. Found out I was a wrestling mark and said, "Hey, you want to work the hard cam for us? We'll give you free tickets for the show. Maybe you'll get a party with the guys." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I've never been to an independent show before." And so I'm working the hard cam. My first independent show, it was a last man standing in I want to say 2005. I said 2002 earlier, but get my dates mixed up. I'm old again. But 2005, and I saw Brian Cage come out, you know, about half the size that he is now. Looked a little bit more like Hugh Jackman than the Swolverine. But and then I saw. I can't put this man over enough. Rick Luxury, wrestling personified. came out with these pink slatted shades, a feather boa, leather vest, headband, just all that energy that Roddy Piper had when I was a kid, or Ric Flair came into and I was like, I want to get involved with these guys. But life kind of happened and delayed it, and it took a while for me to get involved. But when I did, they already kind of had the ball for PCW Limelight rolling. They had the first episode come out. And one of the first things I did was tear their new baby apart. Uh, I told them, you've got it structured all wrong. There's this problem, there's that problem. You've only got one commentator on there. I got in a little trouble for what I said on the next episode of Limelight about my sometimes broadcast colleague James Hayes. But it was all just to establish the Heywood era of PCW. And if you go back and watch, I've got it all in seasons for everybody. If you go back and watch PCW Limelight Season 1, Episode 1, I don't recommend watching it all at once. It's 3.5 hours. And then you go watch Episode 2, you'll see the very marked difference that I brought to the product. And then if you watch what we did, last month, you're going to, wow, these guys have really progressed in a very short amount of time. And like I said, I think when it comes to independent wrestling, I think we have one of the best produced shows on YouTube or any other platform.
And you mentioned Brian Cage, and this is no chicken scratch organization, folks. What are some of the other names that have come through PCW?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you were an early adopter of WWE Tough Enough, one of the contestants, AJ Kirsch, who won the Rock promo belt, he also does a lot of the voice work for WWE 2K series. He's usually the voice of the creator wrestler. And then we also had Jacob Fatu, who just debuted on SmackDown. He came through our promotion back in 2017, 2018, around that time. Started up a really great relationship with our promoter, Zach Primetime Reeb. Rick Luxury, who I mentioned earlier, he's our current Inter-California champion, a PCW original, best friend of Zach Reeb. Trained Thunder Rosa, and Thunder Rosa had a lot of her earliest matches with us against Kimberly Diamond. And Eddie Thorpe in NXT trained with us under the name Carl Fredericks, so you can see a lot of his early stuff with us. Chris Christopherson's son, from the music and the Blade movies. His son, Warpig Jody Christopherson, trained at PCW. He was also in NXT. Powerhouse Hobbs trained under Zach Reeb when he was at APW, and then some of his earliest matches were at PCW. So yeah, we've got a great pedigree of PCW Vanguard that have come through our ranks, and we've got a whole bunch more coming your way, folks.
Awesome. That's great. So speaking of current rosters, who are the current champs that you have over there?
So right now, our current tag team champions, as I mentioned, are the adult dudes. That's the Arsonist, Don Stockton, and their hype man, King Cash. They are real rappers. They've rapped a lot of the themes for our shows. They've done the music for a lot of our wrestlers as well. These guys are legit artists. They're also one of the most brutal tag teams I've ever seen. They just came out of an Orville street fight. You can catch it on our YouTube channel. Absolutely brutal. These guys showed their toughness. We have our prospects champion. That's kind of like our developmental champion. His name is the Red Bull Dickie Dakin. He has had a spectacular run. Won the belt off of our first prospects champion. So this is a new belt, the global phenomenon, JMM. And then the Inter California champion, as I mentioned, was wrestling personified, Rick Luxury. The man's a 25 plus year veteran of the business. I mean, I'm a Rick Luxury guy, and I say that without any shame at all. And then our current champion is the 6'10", recently 500 pounds, but has slimmed down to 450 pounds, which should scare the hell out of everyone. Bad News Blakesley, the kaiju of California. This guy, I like to call him the last spectacle in professional wrestling because he is just really something you gotta see in person. The absolute tear that this man has been on. He's been terrorizing our company, our promoter. I have personally been splashed in the middle of this ring by this man. Took me out for 2 months. I had to go down to Mexico and rehab with Diamond Dallas Page at his DDP yoga retreat. So yeah, those are our current champions. And I would add in some wrestlers to watch. Our recent Inter California champion, Rick Luxury, beat him. Rayshawn Prince. This young man is an up and comer you're going to want to watch. He is going to go places. He is the national treasure of PCW. And even though he just kind of stabbed me in the back, I can't say enough what an amazing athlete this young man is, what a great worker he is. And then the 17-year-old Wunderkid of PCW, All Pro Reno. This young man is 17 years old, plays football, does wrestling in high school, does track, had his first match last year. And he was in that brutal Orville street fight with the adult dudes that I mentioned before. You are definitely going to want to keep your eye on that young man. He is going places.
Awesome. So you mentioned that you got a splash.
Yes,
so
I did.
My guess is as feature commentator, you probably don't wrestle all that often.
No, I have actually never had a match. I don't wrestle, but I do get involved with things as the executive producer of the show. I want to protect my investment, and sometimes I come at loggerheads with Zach Primetime Reeb, and he likes to cry about how unfair Dr. Heywood is to him on commentary. And sometimes I say things that some of the other wrestlers don't like, but you know what? I'm a man of my word. I stand behind my words, and sometimes I have to pay for what I say.
So, would you ever get into a full blown match, or are you just happy with I guess accepting the punishment for your words, no matter how accurate that they are, no matter how many feelings get hurt, sometimes we all take bumps in life. So would you wrestle, or are you happy with just some bumps?
I have trained. As I said, I'm getting up there. I'm 47 years old. And for the longest time, I was not an athletic person. There was like a 3-year period when I went back to school that I was a gym rat pretty well. I was at 300 pounds of just absolute uselessness, cut down to about 200 pounds, and stayed there with a crummy diet for about 8 years. And then when the pandemic hit, I started doing DDPY, and so I want to make sure that I put my body in the best position to not get injured. Because, like I said, I've done some training, and you roll the wrong way, you land the wrong way, you mess up your shoulder, or your neck for months. And so it's like, okay, let's make sure I've got the muscle built up here and back there. So it's not something that's out of the question. I would say maybe a year or two. Uh, at the very least, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to shoot for my 50th birthday, and maybe I might get Zach Primetime in the ring with me. Maybe not. Maybe it might be someone else. But if anyone deserves to go toe to toe with Dr. Heywood, it's Primetime.
We've got to make that happen. That's you got to show them who's boss, who the real boss is here.
Well, I do. I mean, I exert control on the YouTube channel. I mean, I have no compunctions about pulling the plug. There was a time we got close where I was going to have to fulfill my word. I had made some promises to Zach. Getting into why I got involved with PCW again. One of the reasons was, and you talked about this last week with Stanley on your podcast, how the need for positivity in the wrestling business, because it's such a dark place. And as I said, Diamond Dallas Page, one of my heroes, the work he did with Jake the Snake. And Scott Hall really inspired me. And so when I came to PCW this time, one of the reasons was because Zach Primetime Reed was getting sober. And so I wanted to help encourage that. I know how important it is for people who are in recovery to have something that they love to hold on to. And so, hey, we can help this guy with making his wrestling promotion the best thing in NorCal. He's talked about this, and it's something that the PCW fans know. He fell off the wagon, and it was a point where I was like, I will take the thing that you love from you to help you, because that's where you're going to be. And if it makes me a bad guy, I'm happy to be the bad guy. If it means you're going to live for a few more years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a tough love thing, but it was crappy that I had to be put in that position to be a man of my word, but I would be a man of my word for that man and his recovery.
It doesn't get much more positive than that. And
yeah.
As I said, you brought up last week with Stanley. If you guys haven't heard that issue of Running the Ropes, it was all about positivity. So if that's your thing, go check it out. Please do, because I really love the listens. But some really cool stories were told in there. And it is super important in life. The power of positivity is almost second to none. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's working on 90 Days Sober again. He's doing it the right way this time.
Awesome.
I can't tell you how proud I am of him in that aspect. You won't hear me say it on the show often, but I'll say it here. Zach Reeb, I hope you're watching. You got your flowers from Doc Heywood. Keep it up. I'm proud of you, buddy.
That's great. So, what would be your favorite part of the promotion? You wear many hats. So, is there one that you're like, this is me in a nutshell. This is my go-to. This is what I want.
My favorite thing is doing the commentary. I get to watch the show. I get to tell the story. That's my absolute favorite thing. Eventually, there's going to be people who come along who take over the show off my hands. We're already training editors. Buck James, who does commentary with me, has been doing a fantastic job on a lot of these trailers and shorts that we've been putting out. If you're in the Wrestling Society Network, I make sure that I share them all the time, so you'll have seen them. A lot of these are done by Buck James these days. King Cash has done some editing for me too, and eventually they or someone else is going to come through and take that from me. But the commentary is probably going to be something I do as long as I can, unless I move into managing at some point.
Mhm.
I don't see that anytime soon, but we do have a new crop of wrestlers that are going to be coming through soon. And that's the other favorite thing about the promotion is the new young talent. Uh, I get first crack at them. I get first look at these guys um, that you guys might not see in the big leagues for 4, 5, 10 years. We've got our Living the Dream promotion coming up in 2 weeks on the 25th. We're giving contestants an opportunity to win a free year of pro wrestling training at Primetime University for a $50 entry fee. And we've been getting a lot of responses. I've actually been very surprised and impressed by the number of young guys who are going to be coming through and seeing if they have what it takes to be a pro wrestler from all different backgrounds: MMA, football, track, and a whole different age range. And so, maybe the next Roman Reigns is in there. Maybe the next John Cena is in there. Maybe the next Shawn Michaels is in there. Um, you know, we've already got, as I said before, Rayshawn Prince and Ethan Reno and the adult dudes who are just a testament to the training at Primetime University. Not to mention, the guys who are working in the big leagues now.
Mhm.
Um, but the guys we have right now, you go through and you watch the adult dudes debut on our program as hip hop artists, and you see them get in the ring for the first time, take their first hits, their first loss, their first win, their first hardcore match. And eventually, I have no doubt I'm going to see them in other promotions, or they're going to be putting out their next big album and everyone's going to be covering it. I have no doubt I'm going to see Rayshawn Prince in AEW or Ring of Honor or WWE. And Ethan Reno, it's like having Mark Henry at 17 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this kid is big and he is strong and he is a natural in the ring. And again, we to top this all off, we've got a 6'10", 450-pound monster who can just draws a crowd wherever he goes. It's like you can't help but watch this guy, and he's so violent.
So, are there quite a few promotions in your area, or is PCW the one stop shop for?
We there's a lot of promotions in the Sacramento area, which we're pretty close to, um, but very few promotions come north of Yuba City. And that's actually still a very large chunk of California.
Mhm.
There is a promotion in Yuba City. There's several promotions in Sacramento, and so there's some talent that gets mingled there. Also, quite a few promotions in the Bay Area in San Francisco. They're all like an hour and a half to 2 hours from us. Um, but we're the northmost, uh, and we kind of like to keep it that way. It's almost like a territory.
Mhm. That's awesome. So I know that you do a lot of the YouTube productions. Do you travel around and do house shows, or is your wrestling mainly just in one spot in a gym or wherever that you have it? And how well is it attended by fans?
We do travel. We do travel. Attendance generally pretty good. Every now and again, we do get a show that's an outlier where it's like 100, 150 fans, and we're like, how did this happen? But we've done the Golden One Center. We partnered with a promotion that does taco and margarita festivals. Uh, so we've done the Golden One Center, the LA Memorial Coliseum, the Golden Ones, or the Shark Tank in San Jose. Uh, we're going to be in Stockton on. You'll have to check the website, pcwnorcal.com, but it's September 21st, I believe, we'll be in Stockton for the Pickle Festival there. And we do hit different venues here in Northern California. Occasionally, it's a high school gym, mostly the Orville Convention Center or the Tehama County Fairgrounds, where the world famous Red Bluff Roundup is.
Well, I have a couple more questions here before we get to a couple of the news topics. I guess passion for wrestling, whether it's fan or wrestler or promotion wise, is it big in the Pacific Northwest where you are, or is it just now starting to grow? Younger fan base, older fan base? How does all that come together? What kind of demographic do you have to work with?
Well, it's definitely starting to grow. Uh, we have our definite PCW diehard fan base of all age ranges, but we do have a lot of families, a lot of kids, a lot of older folks. Um, at our 25th anniversary show, we had between 800 folks there. When we've done the Taco and Margarita Festival, we've had a couple thousand people watching us on the arena floor. Uh, so we have a pretty good mix. Since the pandemic, it's really been a rebuilding for us. Kind of started back from scratch.
Mhm.
We were, if I'm not mistaken, the first wrestling promotion in North America to hold a live event after the pandemic. We were even before WWE. We had an audience. I was there in the audience. I was like, finally wrestling. I want to watch some stuff with people in the audience, not the stupid Thunderdome. Um, so it's been a rebuilding of our fan base, which is one of the things I've kind of taken under my wing, making sure people can find us really easy on the web, pcwnorcal.com, making sure we have as often as we can a weekly product on YouTube, so we are constantly out there. The people are constantly seeing the guys on our promotion, constantly promoting on Facebook and Instagram. Working on Twitter a little bit more. I've only got so many hands. And Zach Reeb, he does a lot of our social media promotion as well. So right now it's getting the word out, getting the fan base there. That, hey, you know what? We've been here for 25 years. This is who we've made. This is who we're making right now. Jump on, and I like to say you get to see the future stars of wrestling today.
So my last question that I have for you, and it's this is a trial question because I've actually just thought about it earlier when we were talking off air, but it's a very good question, and I think and important question. Um, Wrestling podcasting, wrestling promotions, uh, wrestling itself takes a lot of time, effort, and energy. How does your family feel about this passion of yours and how you choose to express it?
Well, at home, it's just me and my son, little Heywood, and I have him half time. Uh, so I really try and make sure that I'm available to him as often as possible when he's here. So most of the wrestling work gets done when he's at school. But the other thing is involving him in the promotion, letting him get to know the wrestlers. Uh, he gets to come to a lot of the shows, and even though he gets to see behind the curtain, none of the magic has been dispelled for him. He still gets angry about what happens on the show, and he's gotten to participate too. Famously, he got to cake me in the face, which is the first of two times where I've been caked in the face on PCW Limelight. It's starting to become an unnerving trend, and the plebs in the audience wonder why I don't like birthdays. Now you know. So yeah, little Heywood, he gets very involved, and Lady Heywood, my paramour, she doesn't live with me. She lives down the hill. We're trying to merge the households together, and she's very supportive of it. In fact, she runs the jumbotron for us at the shows. So she's not a wrestling fan. She is involved because of her slavish devotion to me, her amazing man, and she's an amazing woman, and I'm slavishly devoted to her. Uh, and there are times where uh, it can get contentious if I'm up all night
Mhm.
editing. Got a deadline for the show. Something happened. This happened. This happened. I got to change something. I'm up late. On a Thursday night. 1 or 2 a.m. trying to get the show uploaded in time. Uh, but mainly it hasn't been too much of an issue, uh, because again, I don't have a 9 to 5 job, and
Mhm.
and so this kind of exists as my 9 to 5.
Right.
It's when it kind of gets beyond that 9 to 5 that it becomes a problem, but it rarely does. Um, but I mean, you talk to enough guys in the business, and you hear about wrestling widows, and it's the rare union that can survive wrestling. I mean, I look at Hacksaw Jim Duggan and his wife, and how they survived, his years on the road. Roddy Piper married to his wife up until he died. So it's doable. I'm sure it was not easy,
Mhm.
um, for those folks. I'm very blessed. I'm very blessed to be in the position I'm in, to be able to do what I do with PCW. PCW is very blessed to have me. What can I say? Uh, but yeah, it's not a huge issue in my family.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Before we came on, I had a few interruptions, kids coming in and
Yeah,
whatnot.
yeah.
My wife's very understanding. She's already, hey, dinner's done. I'm like, yeah, we'll finish up, and we'll I'll get to that later. If I got to reheat it, that's fine. But she's gracious enough to let me follow my passions and do these interviews and podcasts and whatnot. And but it's always fun to get family involved. My 12-year-old daughter now. I had to have 6 kids, so sometimes I have to recalculate their ages. Uh, yeah, she's my wrestling buddy. So
Nice.
Monday night we watch wrestling, and anytime that there's a PLE, we'll sit down, we'll watch the wrestling. So it's always fun to get family involved in that. So so that's all the questions I had for that. But I did want to get your information or your input on some recent news topics. Um, One of them, and I'll throw it on the ticker on the bottom, maybe. There it goes. We got this thing from Tony Khan on Twitter that says, "Oh, stay tuned. The next, or the hugest announcement we're ever going to make is going to be whenever he's going to do it." And well, he said the same thing 3 weeks ago, and then he said the same thing last month. WWE does the same thing. Is it ever get too much to say, "Hey, here's the biggest announcement you're ever going to see"? What are your thoughts on that?
It's it's the carny mentality done wrong. Hey, come on, folks. You got to see the biggest thing over here. Look here, look there, over here. Come see this. It's amazing. You'll want to pay your money for it. If you're constantly bombarding your fan base with that, yeah, it get, oh gosh, here's the big announcement. Figure out a different way to work things. WWE did it so well back when they introduced Razor Ramon with the vignettes, or the $1 Million Man with the vignettes. We started to see this character develop through these little skits, and then here he comes in the ring. We're all ready to boo him. Everything doesn't have to be, a ticker tape parade.
Mhm.
Here's the big announcement, and it's the hologram guy. And it's like, wait a minute, I saw this guy back in 1998. Wasn't he called Avatar? uh, it's the Carney mentality done wrong. Uh,
Yeah.
if eh, I can be a victim of it too. I'm doing commentary. It's our hottest show of the summer. You want to make sure and get down, watch it on PCW Limelight. It is our hottest show of the summer because it was like 100 degrees in there. The air conditioning broke, but
Right.
we're all prone to hyperbole. It's got to be done well. It's got to be done sparingly, and I think it's done wrong.
Yeah. So you had mentioned like vignettes. So like WWE have, in fact, last Monday, they had the wrestling debut of the Wyatt Six. But we've been seeing for months all this promo work to go into it. It's not, hey, folks, come over and check out this new group as they come together and here's a big announcement for it. No, you slowly roll it out over time, and it was huge, and it worked out well. I just think that fans are going to get tired of hearing, oh, hey, we have this huge announcement, and it ends up being we changed Jocket's cream, and yay. So people are going to start, what do they call that? Boy Who Cried Wolf. Look here, look here, look here. Yeah, it was nothing. Look here. And then when finally it is a big announcement, people are going to miss it because they're like, yeah, all right, he said that already. But I don't know.
It,
Interesting
it's
thought.
it's noise. If you watch a wrestling match and the wrestlers are stomping around in the ring, and all you hear that, then when the big slam comes, no one gives a damn
Yeah.
because it's been drowned out by all this other noise. And so if, hey, here's the big announcement, when you actually have, like you were saying, it's the boy who cried wolf. When you actually have a big announcement, screw it, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. So another one that I had, rebranding. Is it really good for business? And I got this headline from a rumor going around that WWE is looking to switch back to WWF.
Well, putting that to the side, you're talking to the right guy about rebranding because uh, my degrees were in graphic design, so that's one of my specialties. And rebranding can absolutely be successful. One of the things I've done with PCW is rebranded quite a bit of it for the Heywood era, to make it something that's more accessible to all the fans in Northern California. Uh, it can be done well. It can be done terribly. I don't know if WWE should go back to WWF. I mean, I'm a certain age. It always slips where I'm going to call it WWF
Yeah.
or I'm going to refer to a certain era, and say, "Oh, back in WWF, oh WWE." Uh, but I don't know if there's enough of guys like me who would be able to slide right back into calling it WWF. I I I, I wonder how younger fans would respond to it. So that is a very interesting question, but rebranding, if it goes the wrong way, you look at New Coke. That was a
Right.
terrible, terrible disaster. Um, but then someone like Saul Bass, a great graphic designer, can take a couple lines out of the IBM logo, and all of a sudden they're selling like hotcakes again. Uh, so it's if it's done by a master like me, it could be very successful. Um, so it WWE, they've they make millions of dollars. They've I'm sure they've got some of the best marketing people in there, probably arguing about this right at this moment. And maybe there's some old school WWF fan. Ah, we gotta call it WWF, and maybe we'll see it go back to that old logo. I mean, it would be cool how the young people would receive it. I don't know. I would like it.
Yeah, yeah, I would like it, but again, we're the same age, so I think that's I called it WWF all the way up until they got sued by World Wildlife Foundation, and ended up having to change the name of it. But at this point, I really don't know if it's worth it, even from a money standpoint, because they would have to change over the trucks and the marketing and absolutely everything to do that. And our company that I work for, in my 9 to 5 job, they just rebranded. Several companies came together, had several different names. They finally settled on one and spent a lot of money to rebrand the product with a new name, new logo, and everything. And it's still, people still call it the old company name, but they went and bit the bullet, and it's working well. But I don't know if it's worth that aggravation to do. I don't know.
Yeah, I think at this point there's not really a reason for them to do it. I wouldn't see that as bringing in any business, putting in any butts in the seats, getting them
Yeah,
any advertising deals at all. So I mean, while it would be a nice dream for old guys like us, the practicality is not there for it. If your company is struggling, if you need to get awareness of your company in a new and different way, that's a great time for a rebrand.
yeah,
But when you're chugging along and even if you're doing moderately successful, there's no reason for it. It's just wasted cost.
yeah, yeah. All right, my last one. Who gets a cut? And I got this off of, and I saw it on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Twix, where the person who gave CM Punk the bracelet made some posts about, where's my cut? You used the bracelet that I gave him in a extremely popular angle that is still going. What do I get out of it? Right? I don't know. What were your thoughts on that?
So I actually I got a charm from one of our fans. It says Dr. Heywood on it, and then it says what I say at the closing of all our shows: take it easy, and if it's easy, take it twice. Now, she gave that to me as a gift. It belongs to me now. This is Dr. Heywood's property. If I have an idea to do something with this property that the giver of the gift didn't have, and I make a lot of money off of it, she's not entitled to any compensation for that. Now, would it be nice if I gave her some tickets to a couple shows and a signed autograph? Here's a picture. Here's this. Here's that. Yeah, that would be the moral thing to do. But there would be no. There's no justice in her getting a cut of the gate from that stuff when there's guys out there busting their tails, taking bumps. Putting their bodies on the line. No, I'm sorry, you don't get a. If I have a machine break and I give the spring to my neighbor and he invents the slinky with it, I don't get a cut of that. He gets all of that slinky money, and good on him for having a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah, the only way I would say that she would have a leg to stand on is if WWE made replica bracelets and were selling them.
Yep, absolutely. There you have something.
That's not the case. It was a personal possession, and they're like, we're going to use this as inspiration to continue this feud. I mean, it could have been anything. It could have been a bottle cap. It could have been a hat, a shoelace. It didn't matter at that point. It's what are we going to use to prolong this, this feud? And that's what they chose. It was a gift, that she didn't care about, other than, hey, I got to meet Phil. I probably got some autographs, pictures, and gave him a bracelet. That's my moment to shine. And then years later, sorry, no,
yeah,
you get nothing. Good day.
You should be excited to be able to say, "Hey, I made that for CM Punk. He's using it on his thing. Here's a picture of when I gave it to him." Trish Stratus tried to steal this off of my back when I met her at Stockton Con. She was like, "Oh, let me put that jacket on." I mean, if she stole it and started having it on Canadian Idol, I'd just be happy that she's wearing it. Hey, look, Trish is wearing my jacket. She's my biggest fan, and she is. Trish, darling, I love you. Call me sometime.
Well, that's awesome. And that's all the news that I had for this week. So, Dr. Heywood, tell everybody where they can find you, where they can find PCW, and how to get in touch with you if they're interested in learning to wrestle, about the school. Give it all to me.
Absolutely. If you want to find me, I am on Facebook, Doc Heywood, except no substitutions. I'm pretty easy to find. I'm in the Wrestling Society Network, just like a lot of you. If you want to find us, we are on the web, PCWNorcal.com. Has our roster, has all the vanguards who have come through our company, our title history, the entire 25 years, with links to our YouTube, also to Primetime University, where you can sign to train to be a pro wrestler. I got to say, Primetime University, the best pro wrestling training in California, maybe the country. I'm going to be bold to say that. We're doing it old school. We are trying to make pro wrestling that Jim Cornette would not have issue with. That's kind of like one of my bucket lists, is to have Jim Cornette watch us and go, "Oh, that's not an Outlaw Mud show." So find us, PCWNorcal.com. We're doing Living the Dream. Win a year of pro wrestling training. Sign up. Primetime University at PCWNorcal.com. We are on YouTube at youtube.com/PCW Pro Wrestling. Just about every Saturday at noon. We're on a bit of a hiatus, but we do have PCW Blueprints coming up at the Orville Convention Center on September 7th. Get your tickets now. The Kaiju of California, the last spectacle in professional wrestling. Bad News Blakesley will be there. You will not want to miss it, folks.
That's awesome. And that's all I have for this episode of Running the Ropes. Again, thank you very much, Doc, for coming on. Really appreciate it. Hopefully you thought it went well, and you'll do other episodes.
Oh, absolutely. Had a great time. And folks, as I always say, take it easy. And if it's easy, hey, you take it twice.
Can't get much better than that. We'll see you next week, folks.